Hi guys, so today is the first day of a new unit for us. This is all about solving percent problems in lots of different ways. We just need to be able to deal with anything that comes at us with percents. And the first thing that we are going to do is solving percents using proportions, because we just finished talking about proportions. You guys are awesome at setting them up and using cross products or whatever method to solve them. So let's see all the benefits of using proportions when we're trying to answer problems about percent. All right, when we set up a percent proportion, we know a proportion is going to be two equal ratios, right? The idea is, and we did a couple of examples like this in the last unit, that a proportion or a percent is always a part out of a whole, right? I mean, that's what most fractions are as well. It's a part of a whole. A percent just happens to be some part of 100%. That's the whole amount when we're talking about a percent. So it's some part x out of 100%. When we're setting up problems asking for percent, this is what they're always going to look like. This is called the percent proportion. Some part out of a whole is going to equal a part out of a whole here, some percentage out of 100. So let's see what this looks like in action. You've got example number 1. A library receives some donation of books. And it says, out of 360 books, 45 of them are science fiction. We want to know what percent of the books donated are science fiction. Okay, there are lots of other ways to figure this out. We're going to practice it with the percent proportion and then see what other types of problems we can do with this. If we were to set up a proportion, here's our blank one. A part out of a whole, percent out of 100. So that, I guess I should say up here, x percent, some percent out of 100. Okay. What do we know from this? We know there's 360 books and 45 of them are science fiction. Do we know how many books there are total, the whole number of books? Yeah, there's 360. That's going to go on the bottom down here. Do we know what part of them are science fiction? 45 of them are. So that's the part out of the whole. Do we know what percent that is? No, that's what they're asking us. So they're asking us the x out of the 100. What percent is that? Okay, can we solve this now that we've got it set up? Sure, you guys can choose how you want to do it. Looking at this would probably, well, we could do cross products if we wanted to. This times this equals this times this. Or could you look at this and say, hey, what's the relationship between 100 and 360? Hey, to get from 100 to 360, I'd have to multiply by 3.6. So I could multiply by 3.6 on the top here, if you see that. If you don't see that right away, cross products are just as easy. 45 times 100 equals 360 times x. This is going to be 4500, right? 2 zeros. And we'll divide both sides by 360 and see what we get. Okay, so get the calculator out. 4500 divided by 360, and it gives me 12.5. So because, guys, of the percent proportion, the answer is given to us in a percentage already. It's 12.5 out of 100, so that's 12.5%. Right? 12.5%. That's one reason a lot of people like to use the percent proportion, because it's given to you in the percent answer. You don't have to do any converting from decimals to percents when you're doing it in this way. It just gives you the flat out answer that it is, 12.5% of the books. Does that make sense? It's only 45 out of 360. What would 10% of them be? You guys know that? 10% of 360, take away a 0, it's 36. So is this more than 36? Yeah, a little bit more. That makes sense. Okay, let's set up one more here. Can we set up this percent proportion? 136 is what percent of 160? Okay, let's set up our blank proportion. Okay. I actually can fill in the 100 right there. That's one I always know I'm going to start with, because that's always given when we're talking about percents. Here's my question. Do we know the percent to put over the 100? That's what I always look for. No, it says what percent. I don't know the percent. That's going to be my x. So now I've just got to figure out, of these two numbers, which one has got to go on the top and the bottom. Okay, well, we want a part and a whole. Do we know the whole? It's something of some bigger amount, right? So there's that key. If you find where the of is, whatever's after that of is going to be your whole amount. Something out of 160, the 160 is going to be that big amount down there. 136 is the part. Okay? You can't just always put the bigger number on the bottom. Be careful of that, and we'll see why in a minute. Once you have this set up, again, if you wanted to try and find equal ratios here, you could make them common denominators. I'll probably just do cross products because I'm in the habit of that right now. Right? This first one, guys, when you're multiplying by 100, you don't need the calculator for that. You just add the 2 zeros, right? That's a big number, though. Equals 160x. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more so this is a little bit bigger. Oh, zoom. Okay. And then we'll divide both sides by 160. And let's see. 13600 divided by 160, 85. All right, so I get 85 equals x. Now, what was I answering? 85 what? Well, it gives me 85 out of 100, which really means 85%. Does that seem right? Is that most of the way up to 160? Sure. I'll buy that. All right, let's try this guy. Make our blank proportion. You know there's going to be 100 down here. And take a second and see if you can fill them in. Don't solve it, just fill them in. 78 is what percent of 60? I'll give you a minute, see if you can decide where the numbers go. Okay, do you know the percent? No, it says what percent, so that's going to be our variable, our x. What is the part and what is the whole here? They say 78 is what percent of 60. It's out of 60, so 60 is the whole amount down here. And they want to know 78 is what percent out of that. Well, this part is going to be bigger than the whole here, and that's okay. What's going to happen, guys, is that it's going to be over 100% because it's bigger than the whole, right? Let's see how that works. If we do cross products, 78 times 100 equals 60 times x. This, we just add the 2 zeros on there. And we'll divide both sides by 60. Let's see if we can see that better. 7,800 divided by 60. 130. So x equals 130, and that's 130 out of 100. That means 130%. You can have percents that are bigger than 100. It just means you have more than one whole, right? So if a whole is 60, that's more than a whole, right? It's 130% of 60, and that's okay. All right, let's look at another way to fill these in. And all these, we were trying to figure out the percent, right? We can be given other information, though, and fill this out a different way. So example 2 says, from mowing lawns this year, you earned 125% of last year's earnings, which were 484. What are this year's earnings? Oh, well, it's good that you made 125% of them. That means, did you make more or did you make less? Yeah, you're making more. 125% is more than 100% of last year's. Okay? One way to do this is to throw it into a percent proportion. Can we figure out what all these are going to mean? We can always put the 100 down there. Do we know the percent this time? Yeah, they tell us 125%. So that's 125 out of 100. They tell us that. But there's only one other number we know, so that means one of these is going to be our variable, and this is going to go in the other place. So what are we trying to figure out? We're comparing to last year's score. That was the whole amount last year, right? And we want to know, hey, what's this new part for this year's amount? So this is the one we're comparing to. The whole amount from last year goes on the bottom. And we want to know what's the new amount for this year. That's going to be our x. Okay? So let's solve that. I'm just going to keep doing cross products here. Divide by 100. Oops, I've got to multiply first. 100x equals, oh, now this one's not so easy because I'm not just adding zeros on there. 125 times 484, 60500. Now I can divide by 100 on both sides. And guys, if you're dividing by 100, what are you going to take away? You're going to take away the 2 zeros right there. I'll prove it to you on the calculator. 605. So x equals 605. Is it 605%? What were we trying to find this time? We were trying to find what are this year's earnings. So it's $605. Does that make sense? That if last year we had $484 and we made more, 125% more, that we could be at $600? Well, that's a good, nice summer earnings mowing lawns, I would say. Okay, so just by plugging it in different places, we can get different types of answers. And let's flip over to page 4. Starting to do Spanish with you guys here. All right, can you set this one up? 27 is 6% of what number? I'm going to give you about 10 seconds right now. See if you can fill in the blanks, and then I'll show you, and we'll see if you need to move yours around. Okay, I know my hundred's always going to go there, so I can start with that. Am I given the percent to go on top of it? 6%. Okay, yes. Now, I'm asking, 27 is 6% of what number? Of what bigger number? Of what whole number? Wherever that of is, guys, whatever's after of is your whole. That goes on the bottom. That we don't know. We know that 27 is some part of something else. That's going on the top, but we don't know of what. So that goes on the bottom. I'm going to try cross products again for this. 27 times 100 equals 6 times x. This one I can do. 2700 equals 6x. 2700 divided by 6. Oh, I got to get the phone. Hang on. Okay, I'm back. All right, what did we have here? 450. 450 what? What was it asking? It was 27 is 6% of what number? Of 450. We don't even need units for that, and that's just our answer. So could 27 be 6% of that? I always look at what was 10% of that if you take off a 0. 10% would be 45. Is 27 less than that? Yeah, so 6% sounds feasible. All right, and then here is your big hint, and I've said this a couple of times. Put a star by it. When you're deciding which number is the part and which is the whole, I probably really wanted to capitalize whole here. It seems silly to capitalize which. And which is the whole, you will often find this key phrase to help. Of, okay, whenever you see of, whatever is after that means that this amount is the whole. Of something means that's the whole. All right, we are going to pause this right now and give you a second to do the guided practice number 1 and guided practice number 2. Don't even solve them, just set them up. And once we've made sure we've set them up correctly, then we can solve them real quick. So take 1 minute right now, see if you can do your proportions that are blank, and go ahead and set them up, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, let's see if you were able to set up these proportions. What is 0.2% of 98? Guys, 0.2%, is that going to be very much? No. All right, we know this 100 is going to be here. Does it give us the percent? Yeah, 0.2 out of 100. This is going to be something small. Okay. Now, which one is the part, which one's the whole? One of these has to be our variable. Here's our keyword of. Of 98 means that 98 is going to be the whole down here at the bottom. That's the whole amount. We're trying to find 2% of that, so our x goes on the top. Well, let's see. We've got 100 times x equals 0.2 times 98. Clear. 0.2 times 98, 19.6 equals 100x. All right, let's divide both of them by 100. Again, this is going to be tiny. Divided by 100, and we get 0.196. So x equals 0.196. All right, guys, are we dealing with money here? Is there any reason we'd need to round this at all? No, just ask us what is 0.2% of that, and that's the whole number. There is absolutely no need to round. It's not like it's going on forever. We can be as precise as we can with that. So there's our tiny little decimal, 0.2% of 98. And that makes sense because it's a little bit less than 0.2, right? 98 is a little bit less than 100. All right, let's see if you set up number 2 correctly. We know that 234 is this going to work? Okay, fabulous. We know 100 goes down here. All right, let's see if I can get through this without it freezing on us. 100, what goes on the top? The percent. 104%. 104 out of 100. This is going to be something bigger than 100%. And we want to know 234 is 104% of what number? Well, whatever comes after of is going to be my whole. I don't know it. Of what number? That's my x. And here's my 234. How many of you set it up like that? Okay, if not, fix it. If you did, awesome. And let's see if the computer will let me finish solving this. 104x equals 234 times 100. Okay, this is going to be 23400. 104x. And I can divide both sides by 104. Let's see what we finish up with here. 23400 divided by 104. I get 225. Let's see if that makes sense. So it is 234 was 104% of something, so it should be a little bit more than the whole. All right. So 234 is a little bit more than that 225. It could be 104% of 225. I will buy that. So your practice is just going to be today to set these up and put the numbers in the right place. We know you can do the cross products to solve it. It's setting up that's the tricky part. All right, have fun.